And welcome back to the Midday Show. We have a little bit of everything for you today. We've got the bat attack. We've got the trial. April 14th is kind of a historic day as well. And then a little Pete Rose fun at the end to end it with. How you feeling today, Mark?
Well, as you can see, I went with the nerdy look today, which I should do on trivia days. On Tuesdays, I should break out the glasses and try to look like a student. I'm just, it's one of the, I'm having some contact trouble. So, it's like you just give them the day off. It's like you're that shortstop that plays every day, and one day the manager says, "Hey, you just go rest today. We're going to put in the backup that can't hit." So that's what we're doing today. I'm looking like the nerd, and let's go bat attack.
Yeah. So listen, breaking news. Only the best stuff here that we break. There was a bat incident in South Williamsport just recently. A bat flying around the house. Apparently, the bat was aggressive, as well as urinated on somebody as well. Hopefully, they are okay. They reported feeling nauseous and dizzy. I will say, my cousin sent me a text. You cannot get rabies without being bitten or having some type of saliva to saliva transfusion, I guess is maybe the word I'm looking for. So it isn't a rabies issue, but hopefully they are okay. But I mean, I hate bats. Do you like bats? I hate them.
Well, no, I don't think anyone does. First of all, what did you say? Nauseous and dizzy? Is that what it was? Yes, as you pointed out, medically, it has nothing to do with rabies. It just has to do with the repulsion that they just realized that, oh my God, the bat just whizzed all over me. Like that has to be and just like when that bat goes back to wherever it hangs out, like he is the man, because not only did you fly through the house and scare the crap out of the people, but you took a leak on one while you were in there. Like he has got to be the bat hero of the day.
Yes. You know what it reminded me of real quick is The Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, when they have to go back into the cabin and they have the tennis rackets and they've got like the plastic pail buckets over top and they're like swinging at it. That like immediately, if you've never seen The Great Outdoors, it's worth YouTubing just the bat attack clip just to see Dan Aykroyd and John Candy like fighting off this bat. But it is like, listen, being from the middle of nowhere, like it's a big deal. Like bats are an issue. I know even here, like on the back deck, like we get bats all the time. So, Greg Martin's helping us out. He's got a little promotion for us. Be sure to call Martin's Wildlife Control in case you ever have an issue. So if you ever have an issue with bats, Greg will give you a free plug here. If you have anything with bats, and Rob Fanning brought up a good point too, they're great for pest control. Like there's a lot of times where like some of the I don't want to say like the cleanest places to be, but if you've ever noticed, like if you see bats around like an old barn and stuff like that, there's less stuff flying around in the lights above because they're just taking care of all the pests. So they are nice to have around from time to time if you have the space for them.
Yeah, I don't know. The guy before who's promoting his wildlife control, I'm sure there are other forms of wildlife that need control. But as you pointed out, and I was thinking of this before you even brought up the movie clip, the only weapon you need against bats is a tennis racket. Like that is the weapon of choice. Everyone that has ever had a bat in the house, they grab a tennis racket.
Well, I'm sure you call Greg Martin so you don't need the tennis racket, right? You're calling Greg so he can help you out, and hopefully you don't have to resort to your Venus Williams backstroke in order to resolve the situation. Peggy brought up a good point too. Can you imagine the 911 person getting that call? What do you do if you're the 911 operator? Like you don't tell them to duck and take cover. Like, what do you even say to them?
Well, I can just picture that whoever the bat relieved himself on had to be it had to be a woman. And I can just imagine this person screaming through the house and like one of their kids or somebody going, "What? You did what?" It's like it's like when you get seagull dropped on at the beach and everyone laughs at you because you were sitting on the wrong blanket at the and it was just and that's the best part. I mean the fact the bat just didn't fly through your house, it searched you out and leaked on you. And I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't, if I'm calling in the bat, I'm not telling that part of the story. I'm leaving that out. I'm like, hey, there's a bat in the house. and all the other aspects that happened, I'm just not going to tell you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. Elizabeth says she usually just scoops them into a container and tosses them outside. So she either,
Wait, what?
Apparently Elizabeth has the magic touch. Apparently, like, because of her cats, you just scoop into the container and take them outside and re-release them. That's her strategy.
I saved several bats from my cats. So did the cat
slow down? I can see you're getting flying around. I can see you. The bat's not even around you, and you're getting flustered right now.
Well, I can see if it's sleeping. Like, I do the same thing for crickets. When it gets to that time of the year, like if I see a cricket on the floor, I'll put a cup over it, and then I'll slide a piece of paper under it, and I'll walk it outside. And I don't just smash the cricket like some other bugs that I smash.
No,
but it's not like the bat is just taking a nap on the floor, and you're like, oh, we'll just scoop the little thing up, and like they're flying around. I don't understand.
All right, and we'll give Greg one more shout out. Tennis racket equals a common tool for frightened people. So I am not surprised that Mark is the one who brought up the tennis racket at all.
Frightened? I would say do-it-yourselfers, buddy. Bring on the racket.
All right, and listen, I'm feeling generous. Let's give Greg one more plug. If you happen to run into a bat, if you have any wild animal needs, be sure to call Greg Martin. Greg, you better reach out to us because we're hooking you up right now. So Martin's Wildlife Control. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to clarify, if you have a bat problem and you don't have a tennis racket, just call me. I'll help you out. If you have any other bigger problems, then call Greg because that's the extent of my expertise.
All right. Okay. I appreciate it. This was great. Watch The Great Outdoors if you've never watched it. And 2, look up the bat scene on YouTube if you've never seen that as well. They are priceless.
The buckets on the head is what really makes it.
Oh, right? It's fantastic. All right. Derek Chauvin, you had some stuff you wanted to talk about the trial. I'm going to use my 10-foot pole now to push my laptop away from me. And you can go ahead and start telling us about your thoughts on the trial.
All right. Well, hold on. Let me. So when I first saw it, I said, I'm not going to go. I mean, we've seen the George Floyd video, and we kind of know, but so my first thought, the prosecution had gone and gone and gone. I was like, who is the defense possibly going to find to bring up? I thought the defense may just rest, or I thought the defense may at this point just be like, you know what? They plead no contest. Or something. How are you going to make a defense for this when it is all on video? It's not fuzzy. It's not obstructed. It is there. So they find this guy. One of the reasons they got a guy to testify is because he's been paid $11,400 so far. He's going through. He's talking about how he did not think it was an excessive force. He is a force expert. In a police force expert. He did not think it was excessive. At one point, they talked about the position that he had Floyd in. And he actually made the statement that said it's safer, this position is safer for the perpetrator. Now, he went on to say that the whole statement isn't as ridiculous as it sounds, because he's like, if they are on alcohol or on drugs or whatever, and they're on their back, then they could choke on their own vomit, depending on how they. So if they're face down, they can't choke on their own vomit, a la Jimi Hendrix and Keith Moon and the guys like that. So he made the statement that this position is safer for the perpetrator in a trial where the perpetrator is now dead. So I don't understand how, somewhere in the coaching of the witness before you go on, you can't make that statement, because there's no way that. This was the safer approach. But the part that really got me, and you're wondering the general intelligence of this guy who's going to take the stand, who's going to be known as the guy that takes the stand. When the attorney was cross-examining the guy, and the guy said, it appeared to me in the video that Floyd was still struggling. And the attorney said, struggling or writhing? And the guy answered with, I don't know the difference. Now, the word writhing and I was a math major, the word you writhe in pain. That's where writhing goes. Writhe, pain. But for a guy, this is their expert witness. And he says, there's never been a guy on a basketball court or a girl on a basketball court who just blew out their knee and was laying on the court like struggling. No, they're not. They're rolling around the court writhing. Like, so to get this guy with this IQ level to be like, this is who you find to testify. And we're not going to talk about this a lot. We're not going to go any further. You can stay with your 10-foot pole. Can you imagine what is going to happen if he doesn't get the book thrown at him? The Rodney King riots didn't happen after the video was released. The Rodney King riots happened after the trial and the police were all acquitted. If Chauvin gets acquitted, look out.
Yeah. It's
there we go.
The one part of this, just to take it kind of like away from the actual trial itself, there is nothing like, I have stayed away from the trial. I have my opinions about it. And I personally, like, I don't need to watch a trial to know what was right or wrong. I will say this though, there is nothing that brings America, like, you want to talk about like water cooler chatter. Like, you want to talk about, like, I have felt more out of the know than I ever have in my life the last week and a half, because I have not followed this trial day by day. And it is unbelievable. America loves like an in-depth trial. Like you even wore your glasses today. Like, you wore your attorney glasses today.
That's why I did it.
And it is, I mean, it's unbelievable what a trial will do. Like, there's nothing better for American ratings than a trial and just the reality of it. And I mean, it is unreal. So I agree with you. Like, the outcome of this is really going to determine the way a lot of society reacts, and it's really going to dictate how different factions handle it. It really is.
Next Tuesday, as you're talking, I'm coming shirt and tie, pocket protector, and glasses for trivia day. I'm going to be ready.
Yeah. I'm tiptoeing away from that one. Nice job. I like your attorney glasses. You were legit.
Thank you. I try once in a while.
Yeah, that was good. Somebody real quick before we spin the prize wheel, if I can find it, we'll see. Someone basically said that should be the next prize, should be a Bat Control gift card. So if Greg Martin, if you want to put a gift card up here on the board for all your Bat Control needs, we're waiting for your call. We'll slap one up on the board.
Not to go back to the Bat Control, but this is one of the other problems. This is one of the problems with relationships and the problems with men and women. If you are the female in the relationship and there's a bat flying around your house and your significant other, whether he's a husband, boyfriend, whatever, has got the tennis racket and is going to take care of it, there is nothing you can say to stop him. He is going to swing this thing until he hits the bat or until he breaks every lamp. And it is, so there's no, once, Macho Man gets his tennis racket weapon in his hand, there is no talking him off that ledge. So just get out of the way and let him have at it.
My favorite part about this is we could put a gift card up for a tennis racket, and we could put a gift card up for the pest control from Greg Martin. And you're basically saying they're the same thing.
They are. Well, not just in this. Obviously, Greg has a more wider expertise, but in just the bat level, it is. Did you ever? People are going to think this is horrible, but people step on bugs all the time. Did you ever hit like lightning bugs when you were a kid?
No, I never. Like, you mean just like randomly went outside and hit lightning bugs?
Like maybe
I've seen a dead or a smushed lightning bug before, but no, I did not go outside to just kill lightning bugs as a kid.
You never hit one with like a wiffle ball bat?
No, but I've seen a dead lightning bug.
No, but there's difference between like a dead lightning bug and one that just got hit and it explodes, and it's like, I'm surprised you,
Mark.
What'd you say?
I said, and what is that difference, Mark?
Well, they explode. It's like fireworks. I can't believe a farm kid like you never did that. Like the only thing I ever killed in my life were like insects, and that's it. And like you kill something like once every 3 days.
Sounds fascinating. Let's shout out Weiss Markets before they change their mind after they listen to this conversation. So thank you to Weiss Markets for sponsoring us, becoming the title sponsor of the Midday Show. As always, on the board right now, we have $100 gift card. We have a $50 gift card. And we also have a $25 gift card to Weiss Markets for all your grocery needs. We also, I believe we still have Moon and Raven on the board. We have the break room as well. I still haven't made my trip to the break room. You and I talked about it. I think we should try to do a show from the break room.
I think we should too. I don't know how we'll have to work out the logistics of it. We'll probably have to get a different camera person, but that would be awesome.
Okay, I'm still owed a trip there. And we'll look. Let me look real quick. Just
Eat and run. We have eat and run
catering. Eat and run catering as well. So be sure to join the Midday Show Facebook group. That's how you get entered for a chance for your name to be drawn and a chance as we spin the wheel. Anything else that I should add before I show the winner?
No, you did well. Whoever's the winner gets a free T-shirt and then maybe some more stuff.
All right, here we go. Today's random winner from the Midday Show Facebook group is Don Leitzel Jr. Not to be confused with Don Leitzel Sr. Don Leitzel Jr.
Leitzel used to, I don't know if he still teaches. He was a math teacher. When I student taught at Chickalemi in the math department, and Leitzel was one of the guys. He was the baseball coach for a long time. He's actually, I would never say this publicly, he is a really good guy. But if he wins something big, I'm keeping it. I'm not giving it to him.
All right, we can live with that.
Like, I don't know if he's still teaching or not, but he's a good dude.
Here we go, Don Leitzel Jr. All right.
I'm keeping it.
$25 to Weiss Grocer.
There you go. And he will go in and he will take his slide rule and he will make sure he calculates that of that $25, he will spend $24.97. And he will be that guy in the cashier line saying, well, does this put me over? Okay, then put it back. Does this put me over? Just put it back. So Leitzel, congratulations. Now I would say go teach those kids. I don't know if he's still teaching. He might be retired by now, but good dude.
All right. Today, April 14th is kind of a historic day. You got this right on trivia yesterday. You nailed it. You needed like no time to know, showing your age here. But it's a historic day. It's the anniversary that John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln at the theater. I will say this. I am not a Bill O'Reilly fan, and I'm not just, I was not a Bill O'Reilly fan throughout his whole tenure. But he has a great book called Killing Lincoln. And it is, you follow, instead of following Lincoln, like to the theater and then what happens afterwards, you actually follow John Wilkes Booth. So it's kind of like his whole backstory leading up to the night and then where he went and what he did after the shooting. It is a fantastic book if you are a history buff. Killing Lincoln.
There was a movie, and I should have prepared. I could maybe Google it. It was about the first or the only woman that was taken to trial over the assassination. Because obviously we know John Wilkes Booth, but there were people that helped him and all these accomplices that where they planned it and where they stayed and how they helped him get away and stuff like that. And there was like a lady that ran a boarding house in Washington or right outside of Washington, D.C. And I cannot remember what the name of the movie was. But yeah, the whole thing is fat. And of course, the movie Lincoln. When we talk about this historic day, as we go to the next one, if you have never seen the movie Lincoln with what's his name? Was it Spielberg? Who? No,
well, I don't know who directed it, but it was Day-Lewis who did the role.
Daniel Day-Lewis, but it was if it was either Spielberg, I don't think it was Scorsese, but it was like, but it's fascinating because again, it just goes through the 6-week period of how they got the amendment passed. And so yes, and you will watch this and think that like of all the images, obviously we don't know what Abraham Lincoln sounds like because they didn't have a recording device or whatever, but you will believe that Daniel Day-Lewis was Lincoln, like he was perfect.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it was Spielberg. So if you get a chance, watch the movie Lincoln, and then also too, like if you're a Bill O'Reilly fan, you'll love the book Killing Lincoln. And even if you are not a Bill O'Reilly fan, trust me, still read the book. I am not a Bill O'Reilly fan, and it is still great. It is worthwhile. And then the other sad incident that happened on April 14th, it's the history of the Titanic going down.
And I just watched this again. It's so like, I remember when this movie came out and I was younger. So, like it was critically, everyone loved it. And then as it started breaking records and it started filling with like, 13-year-old girls crying their eyes out all the time. And now all of a sudden it wasn't cool to like it anymore.
Okay.
And I just saw half of it the other day. It is such a brilliant movie. So there, you can watch those two. Watch Lincoln, watch Titanic. They're both a little long, but there's so much historical accuracy of the movie Titanic that, you know, to the way the ship was built, to the way it went down, to the fact that the dudes up in the crow's nest didn't have binoculars. Just there were some, obviously Leo and Kate were made up characters.
Sure.
But well, yeah, but it, you know, it was fascinating. The other thing about, I don't know when, I think Fenway Park opened like tomorrow or this week. Fenway Park and the Titanic were like at the same time. Okay. So maybe Fenway Park opened on the 12th or something like that, but that was the same historic aspect. But yes, April 14th, we go from this day where a big ship sank and our president got shot to April 15th, where everyone usually pays their taxes. So it's a very happy time in American history.
I remember like a debate, and I've had this with like friends, like, would you have survived the Titanic? And I'm always, the part that always fascinates me when you ask people that question, I think they really undervalue how cold that water was. Like, I think people have no idea or concept of how freezing the water was once you were wet.
Well, yes, I mean, you and your friends would have been locked in steerage, so you had no chance. Like, there's no way. Do you know? I don't know if you knew this. In the scene when or in the movie when Leo is handcuffed to the thingy and Kate Winslet has to go find him, and she comes down and she jumps into like water that's almost like chest deep, and she like gasps. The water was really cold when they filmed it, because she said, or the director, or James Cameron said, like, it needs to be authentic. This can't be bath water and you pretend to be cold. So like when she comes in and she's like, it is real. Like the water's as cold as it's supposed to be. So
yeah, no, I have friends I have friends who completely undervalue. Like, they're just like, oh, I just would have dove in and you just would have swam to the first. As the lifeboats were starting to head out, you dive in and just go to the first. And it's like, no, like you have no idea how cold it would have been. Like, just no clue or concept at all.
Yeah, and not like the dive couldn't like knock you out or anything, because it's not, you know, you're not diving off the you know, the boat dock at the pond. Like it was a little high. It was yeah. But in all fairness, like, your friends are super, super tough.
They're very tough. So much tougher than I am. So
like, the next movie is next summer. It's going to be Kong versus Godzilla versus Jeff's friends.
Yes, and they'll make it. They'll survive. They'll tell you how they'll survive too. Trust me. They'll make it. Pete Rose, it is, you told me, his 80th birthday?
80.
This is, as somebody like at my age, it's really neat to go back and look up like these historical athletes, right? Because we're at that age, like, where now you can find this stuff on YouTube. You don't have to wait for like some ESPN documentary. Like, you can kind of get on and do your deep dives and kind of learn like your sports history. It is, for me, one of the only baseball deep dives I've ever done was like a 1 hour deep dive on Pete Rose on YouTube. And like, I have to say this, he looked like he made baseball fun, as somebody who didn't really get like the full Pete Rose experience. To me, he seemed like somebody that would have been beloved if he played baseball today, but obviously he made the ultimate sin in baseball.
Well, the thing about it, and the reason, you know, to bring it up, other than the fact that he's 80, is he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's banned from baseball. But overwhelmingly, whenever they take a poll of baseball fans, they want him in the Hall of Fame. And I've never understood from any business. We talked about this with the Catholic Church, you know, a few weeks ago about, you know, the gay marriage, and if your fan base or if your clientele or your parishioners, if they want something at an overwhelming, like a 75%, 80% clip, and the powers that be are like, nope, we know better. Like, I don't know how baseball is helping itself by not letting Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame when 75% of the baseball fans want him in the Hall of Fame. the thing that I thought about Pete Rose that made people love him is he was not the greatest athlete on the field. You know, when you see guys like LeBron James, or you see Barry Bonds, or you see Mike Trout, or, you know, or any of these super guys, that you just look at them and you say, oh, well, no wonder nobody can cover him. No wonder he. And Pete Rose was just kind of like the normal. He was kind of like your normal guy from your neighborhood who just kind of worked harder and played harder than everybody else. And he was not. He's famous for he kind of ruined Ray Fosse's career. He ran over the catcher in an All-Star game when people like, Pete, it was an All-Star game, and he was like, well, I was playing to win. And there was that endearingness to him that in a lot of ways he was kind of the American dream. He was a real sports version of Rocky Balboa almost. Like, he wasn't that talented. He just played harder, and he obviously was talented. But yeah, that my aspect of Pete now, as I look back, just to repeat myself, I don't understand why baseball thinks they're helping their cause by not putting him in. And it's too bad. He's 80 years old. Like, he ain't going to be around forever. And it's really unfortunate moment in the sun, because I think the whole scandal was 1989. It's been like 30 years. Like give the guy, okay, there are murderers that don't serve this long. Like, give the guy his day. But you know, what do I know?
I told you like my naive baseball opinion of it was up until the last 4 years, I was okay with it. Because my whole thing was just as long as there's not a double standard, meaning if there are other guys who are going to cheat and you have the whole steroid scandal, and for the most part, they have been kept out as well. So my whole thing up until about 4 years ago was, all right, as long as it's not a double standard, and if you cheat and you're out, I get Pete Rose not being in. After the Houston Astros scandal and seeing how it's been just kind of like swept under the rug, and you got guys who, in my opinion, did far worse than what Pete Rose did, still playing baseball and still getting to participate in it, and you have the organization hold on to their World Series title. My thing now is there is a double standard. So my whole thing is, like, if you're going to let the Houston Astros did what they did, but yet you're going to hold on to this thing from 30 years ago where, like, Pete Rose is just, like, forever in purgatory and he can never – I just completely disagree with that. So now recently – I think it's time. Like, I don't understand, to your point, what are they holding on to? Like, why is it okay for the Houston Astros to just kind of walk around with their World Series championship, but yet Pete Rose can't be inducted for the Hall of Fame? The one point that you brought up, and it stayed with me for the last hour, is you said if you take away the Houston Astros World Series championship, like, they still won it, and they know they won it, and you can never replay those games. You can never take it away. Well, if that's the case, Pete Rose made all those hits. Like, he stepped in the box, he made contact, he hit the ball, like you said, he played with a swagger, he played with a chip on his shoulder. You can't act as if he didn't play the games. So what are we doing here? Like, why are we keeping him out still?
Well, and that's the thing. It's almost like the country club aspect. And they're not denying his records. And they're not even – I don't even think that anyone ever thinks he gambled on baseball while he was a player. He did it as a manager. So his records are intact. They're just saying you're not allowed in our elite Hall of Fame, which and one of the other things I've talked about too is nowadays it's one thing when you enforce a rule that, like, well, this comes into play. But nowadays it's like, is there a law about like on downtown Market Street where you tie up your horses? Well, it's good that we have that law, but it doesn't really matter because nobody's bringing their horses to Market Street anymore. It's not 1889. So the whole, because the money from where it was in the 80s, even for the managers, like in the 80s, some of the players started making millions of dollars a year, but only the superstars. Now you've got managers that are making 7 figures a year. And the money is so great that there's no incentive to bet, and I don't even know what Pete was betting, $10,000 a game or whatever. But if you're making $50,000, or if you're making $150,000 as a manager, you know, in a couple games you might be able to make 10% of your salary. You can't do it that way because they're already making so much money, and the incentivized is against it. So I can't imagine that there's anyone out there who's in professional sports, any player or coach, who's like, oh, I'm going to bet on my own team, but oh, maybe I shouldn't because Pete Rose got in trouble. Like, they're like, I'm not going to bet on my team because the gravy train I'm on is so good right now. I don't want to mess it up. Right. And that's another thing. Like, to make him wear the scarlet letter is not doing any good for any. It's not like it's keeping your game wholesome. The money itself is keeping the game wholesome, because why would anyone try to cheat it? The winners are rich. The losers are rich. Everybody's rich.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's time. I agree with you. He turned 80. Like, trust me. I have a feeling if he could go back and change it, he would.
Yeah, and he's 80. Like, come on.
Yeah. All right.
This is what they're going to do. And this is what makes me mad about. He will be inducted at some point. And it will be, how do you say the word, posthumously? It will be after he's passed away. And that is so sad.
Yeah.
But that's what they're going to do.
Hopefully they won't. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for putting up with our shenanigans. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being the title sponsor. Be sure to head to Weiss for all your grocery needs. Anything you want to end the show with?
Shenanigans. We open the show with an in-depth report on bat urination, and you comment it as shenanigans. I don't get it.
I can't wait until a rep for Weiss Markets turns this on and they get to hear the in-depth analysis of what happens when you hit a firefly with a wiffle ball bat. They're gonna be like, take more of our money. It's gonna be fantastic.
I haven't done it in years. Listen, we get good ratings. People watch us. I can't believe you never did that. Man, when we were kids.
Never. It never crossed my mind to.
Okay, hold on. Okay, let's go through someday. We don't have to do it today, but you grew up on a farm. Let's go through the number of animals that have died at your hand as opposed to me. And it's a big discrepancy. Whatever. Stop it.
0. Hey, some good news. Greg Martin is going to message us about a gift certificate. We are going to have a Bat Control gift card on the prize wheel sooner rather than later. It is happening, ladies and gentlemen. We make dreams come true on the Midday Show. That's all I'm saying.
Not only that, we're making the world safer.
Yes, we're saving lives.
Because now there's one more. You're going to see people when a bat goes flying around. This is what's going to happen now. The husband is going to run for the tennis racket, and the wife is going to get a hat just so she doesn't get leaked on, because she's like, oh, I hear these things pee on people.
No, and then last thing, Peggy went to a Titanic display in Vegas, and they actually have an iceberg for you to touch to see how cold it really is. I have been to Vegas a couple of times. I have not seen the Titanic display. I am going to look for that the next time I am in Vegas. That's what
I've seen. Not to go off on a boring topic, but I didn't find this boring. I saw a documentary or some special on the actual iceberg, and they went through like how it would have had to break off and how big it would have been to break off, because they all break off in the Arctic and they float, and how it would have melted and they think it was capsized, that most of it was like the whole, like the journey of, because you're just like, oh, it's not like someone just goes to the fridge and just drops it there. Like, it is a long, and how much, if the water would have been a little bit warmer, if it would have been like 2 weeks later, the iceberg would have either been totally melted or it would have been like a tenth of the size that they could have just smashed right over it. That whole thing, like the dumb luck, bad timing of the time of the year and the way the ice was that year, something like that. It was crazy. I explained it so well too.
You need to wear the glasses every day, because this is not. I refuse to give you credit.
I don't like the glasses. I don't think it's not a good look for me.
Listening to you talk about the trial and now the formation and the structure and the process of icebergs like that, I didn't know you had it.
I can go from that to hitting lightning bugs with wiffle ball bats as an 8-year-old. And I could do it right-handed or left-handed, buddy.
You were good.
The trick was you had to, like, before it got really dark, because they had to light up. But then when they weren't lit, you still had to be able to see them flying around. So it had to be like, there was like a 10-minute window that was optimal.
I have no comment for that.
I'm just telling you, that was wild times when you were a kid in the 70s, buddy. Big time.
The idea that there was a 10-minute window to go outside and hit lightning bugs with a wiffle ball bat is absolutely incredible.
Maybe we were the only ones. I don't know. Maybe nobody else did it, but we thought it was fun.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I can't believe that my neighborhood was the only kids that hit lightning bugs with wiffle ball bats. I find it hard to believe. But, maybe we were on the inside looking out. I don't know.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks to Weiss Markets for sponsoring us and hopefully continuing to sponsor us after today's episode.
Of course they will. They love us. Go to Weiss Markets, get all your stuff. Yeah, I'm in Weiss Markets like 5 times a week. So I love the place.
All right. And congratulations to Don Leitzel Jr. $25 gift card coming your way for Weiss Markets. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks for watching the Midday Show at NorthcentralPa.com.
Watch out for bats.
Maybe.